I think for me in my journey, the thing that really just I'll say struck me deep was the two forces I'll say was first pastor I ever had was Norbo Goff at Baber AME Church. And I just remember every Sunday when this man preached, how he just how he just used the word, but how the word moved all these people. And I would just sit there in awe of that whole thing. And I just was like, I don't know what's happening right now, but I know I want to have that effect on people. I don't know what this man is doing, but that's what I want to do. I want to be able to touch people with my word. I want to be able to move people, like in that kind of way. Um, and the older I got, I want to say probably like during my teens, that I was writing for sure, but I was just, like really sheltered. I was a kid who grew up observing the arts, not really participating in them,
Okay.
even though I wanted to.
Right.
But it was always there in some way. But I just used to always, have my pen and pad, and I would be writing poetry here and there. And, like that was just the thing. And when I came into my early 20s, I was homeless. When I became homeless, it was at that time, where I had just dropped out of college and I was really trying to figure out what my next step was. And during that time period for me, the thing that still persisted, that was ever present in my life, was that dream, like to just go after it. And then for me, it was just if I failed at doing, like life in the way that somebody told me I had to do it, if I failed at going at it in the kind of structured way, what's the worst that can happen if I actually go for what I want? Like what's going to happen if I go for my dream? I won't know until I know, but I'd rather try doing that than doing life on anybody else's terms. And here I am.
I love it, man. So good, man. So Anderson, I mean, you're in good company. Let me think. Who else do I know that was homeless that is doing pretty good? Tyler Perry, homeless. Steve Harvey, he was homeless too. And so it's interesting how situations like that can bring you face to face with your destiny if you're willing to push through. Um, tell me a little bit about that time in your life. What was going on? And like I think about Mary J. Blige, it seems like she puts out the best music when she's going through stuff. It, have you found that to be the case as an artist?
For sure, I do. I can say, when I first started my writing journey, a lot of my work, I'll say, just dealt with my internal conflict, a lot of my trauma, a lot of my grief, a lot of the stuff that I was, like dealing with at that period in time. And I think for me, I won't say it's when my best work came out, but some of the best pieces I've written, I think, came from that time period. But it also kind of pushed me into a deeper space with myself where I had to really ask, like what kind of artist do I want to be, and I don't want, and what kind of relationship really do I want to be in with my art? I know for me, in some sense, being able to have the space to talk about all the things that I endured or overcame, and just creating language around that was especially important. But on the other side of that, when I go out into the world, like, do I want to be the guy, like who, like is that like the totality of my story, like what I went through or what happened to me. I didn't want people to perceive me in that kind of way. I really wanted to let my word and let my creativity, let the fullness of who I am, like just emerge in every aspect of my work. Because we are, I know we are, I won't even say I believe, but we are so much more than what has happened to us. Like we're so much more than the trauma or the things that we endure. And if anything, it just illuminates the essence of who we are. So
Mhm.
just coming through that, I think uh when I first started my writing journey, I was really trying to find, like what I was looking for, like trying to find my voice, how I fit into the slam scene here in Rochester. Because before I was part of a Rock Bottom Slam team, and I started off as the secretary of that team. and worked my way up to creative director. And prior to, Shaq Payne had been creative director of Rock Bottom, and eventually, like moved up to executive director of co-executive director, excuse me, of the team. But in that kind of shift, I'll say I had a lot of opportunity to just travel with the team before I like competed to get a spot on the team. I was, like attending all the open mics they had. And eventually they just, like welcomed me into their practices that they hosted. And then they invited me to go to an invitational out in Albany when the slam scene was like really vibrant, like in New York State. And they invited me out there to just, like be with the team, experience what it would be like to be like just be in a slam. And when I was there, I also was a sacrificial poet. So um I'm pretty sure the language has shifted somewhat, but what a sacrificial poet was called then is probably known as a calibration poet now. So it's basically the person who gets up and, like they perform their poem and they kind of just get the audience ready for what they're getting ready to experience. But the other unique thing about slam, like 5 judges are picked throughout the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And the way the scoring system is set up, the 3 middle scores are taken and the highest and lowest scores are dropped. So the total points that you get are those 3 middle scores. And first time I ever did my slam, I got a 24, and I was okay with that because I wasn't even expecting it. But yeah, it was a beautiful time, and I'm just proud of like where I am, like now.
Wow, wow. So being a math teacher, I'm fully aware of what you're saying. You drop the outliers, the high and the low, you take the medium. So tell my audience a little bit more about um the production, the company that you got, blessed to be a part of, how that organization came to be, and where are they now? Is that still a entity that you're a part of?
So Rock Bottom is we disbanded in 2017, but Rock Bottom was founded by Lou Highsmith. So for a little bit of context, the slam poetry scene here had been worked on a kind of youth setting. I'll say, like for high school age students from Rena Golden. Like she had world traveler and an amazing dynamic human being who has done, like tremendous work for poetry to put poetry on the map here in Rochester. And like the work that she was doing here really, I'll say, just transcended the city because she was able to uh, take the youth that she worked with to Brave New Voices, and that is an international poetry festival that young people attend for 4 days. And in that 4 day festival, they get to meet artists across all different industries from film, theater, probably independent publications, all sorts of things. But they get exposed to the word and how many different facets, capacities it can be used, and also where like they might see themselves going. They also get to partake in various different writing workshops, other open mics, but they also take place in a poetry slam as well. Um, but yeah, Rena Golden, like really, she started that work here in Rochester with young people. And then Lou Highsmith really wanted to create something like that for adults, an adult poetry slam team, a space where people who have that talent, have that caliber to of performance and writing, and just hosted a slam one day. And of that, I think I can't remember how many of the original members it was. I want to say it was probably 5 or 7 of them. But they got together and they formed the first cohort of Rock Bottom. And then probably like a year and a half later, I got introduced to the team, and that's when I started my journey, just joining the team.
Blessings, blessings, man,
I'm good. How are you?
blessings. So here's my wonder, man. For my audience that are just tapping in, We are sitting down with politically undefined Anderson Allen, and not only is he a wordsmith, a slam poet, an actor, a yogi, and a teacher of artistry. Man, he's just a good guy. And I, I love your energy, man. My wonder is this, bro, how do you find the balance and the synergy to do what you do? Where's it coming from?
um, for me, it's just something that I feel like it's kind of always been there, like just the desire to perform, to just be in front of a crowd of people and just do my thing. I remember I could if you'd have said I would have been doing what I'm doing now, like even though I dreamed of it at 5, I still would have been like, ooh, I don't believe you. I think you fronting. But I think anytime I tell people this all the time, anytime I step on stage or I'm standing out in front of a group of people, whether I'm teaching or I'm performing, it doesn't matter in what kind of capacity I find myself doing my work. I'm always nervous. And sometimes I'm even afraid. Like the crowd I'm most afraid to perform in front of all the time are kids. All
Whoa.
every trip. Adults, I don't be worried too much about adults. However, them chilling, man, listen, like I have to just remind myself, what happens like when I go through my creative process. And I know what it's like to push something, like out of me that was good, like and saying that without ego being involved and really just I'll say being committed to what the poem, like is requiring of me. I don't like to dictate my writing process or say, oh, this is how it has to sound, this is how it has to be. I really want the poem to guide me, like where it goes or where the concept or the idea is trying to push me versus me trying to say it has to be this way or it has to be that way. I don't like that. I don't invite, I'll say like a dictative kind of energy into that space. But the thing that I'll also say I take with me anytime I perform, I'm on stage is I say it all the time, like I'm a one man nation. And if I really believe that, like what does it look like to embody that energy when I'm stepping in front of like a group of people? And beyond that, I think the deeper thing for me to just remember is, like when I'm up there, I'm never alone.
Mhm.
Anytime I'm on stage, like if people are paying money to come see me, nobody paid to come see me fail. Nobody
Mhm.
paid to come see me do a bad job. You know what I mean? So like I even think about that. I really just, like say everybody who came here came to see a great show. They came to see me do my thing. They came to see me be great. That's what people are paying their money for, like, and that's what I'm here to give you. So I just kind of always just telling myself, like those kind of things. But in terms of, I'll say like balance, I think the stage is where I really am able to decompress and also like find my own kind of freedom. A lot of spaces I'm in, I kind of I have to navigate, like how I move, how I live, and how I show up in those spaces because I can't turn up on stage like I do when I'm teaching yoga, even though sometimes, I keep saying that I ain't gonna do it, but like I'm gonna make a James Brown like yoga class at some point. That's gonna be a thing because I need that type of energy in my life, and I just need folk with me on it. But for me, it's just that's my space to just like get loose, get free, and really say something, because I got something to say. I got something to say, and I got something worth listening to. And even that, for me, was a big shift when I first started. I shifted, like from wanting to be heard. That was my intention when I first started, and then I started hearing other artists say that same thing, other spoken word and slam poets, like just saying that I want to be heard, I want to be heard, I want people to hear me. And I had to
Wow.
really sit with myself on that idea, like, is it that I really want people to hear me? And it wasn't, for me, it was, I want people to listen to me.
Love it.
Like I want you to listen to what I'm saying. And it's a world of difference in that. And that changed the way I wrote, that changed the way I showed up when I hit a stage, and it really changed the way that I wrote, you know.
Mm,
So
I love it.
it's just embodying the work that I've done and also just remembering, yeah, like when I step up there, I'm not alone, and everybody out here is here to support.
So let me ask you this, because I'm gonna
Mhm.
peel back the layers of this onion here. So some of the productions that you've been a part of include Anatomy of a Black Man,
Mhm.
$12, and you've also been in the Rochester Fringe Festival. So my wonder is this: what themes or messages do you strive to convey when you're on center stage?
So Anatomy of a Black Man and $12 were both those are both plays, productions that I co-wrote for. Um, Anatomy of a Black Man, I wrote with my bro God, Shaq Payne, AOR. And during that time, when we first created it, we took um we took both of our poetry, like it meshed it together, and we kind of just created like a flow of how we would go through it. And in between, like certain we would create segments based off of that. So there were certain themes that happened in that show. And then we did little I'll say, I don't want to say skits, but just moments of improv, Um and those improvised moments were also moments where we had conversation, like about what it meant to be
What's happening, man?
like what it meant to be a Black man, what it meant to have these I'll say kind of parallel experiences that in some way mirrored each other, but also were very different in their own kind of way. But it was really just that play was, like just a journey about really finding out like what makes a man a man, but like how is that unique to Black men? How is our experience not just unique, but what does it mean to also, like find brotherhood and the kind of landscape that we're in? What does it mean to find love? What does it mean to actually show up and, be someone in the community who can be a pillar, somebody to lean on, somebody to, just show us, just be there for somebody that could be there, like for others. But what does that also mean to be there for self? What does it mean for us to show up and be there for each other? I think we kind of explore all those different ideas, but love was the overarching theme in that play. And $12 was directed by the brilliant Gary DeWitt Marshall. And when we first got that script, it was written by Emmett Mitchie and some other guy. I cannot remember his name right now. But when Gary got the play, he kind of gave me a quick synopsis about it. And it was just a play about two hitmen who meet in a bar one day and, like they're discussing a potential hit, like, and they're just going back and forth on that one thing. And when Gary got the play, as he does with all his brilliance, he has these ideas about how he wants to do it. And he told me, um, hey, I got an idea and I want you to write a preamble piece, like to this play. And I also want to, like have you play a suicidal schizophrenic war veteran who, like is really just like on the verge of, you know, either tipping himself out or just teetering on that block. But that show was really, I'll say it's one of the most gripping plays I did. And it definitely, to this day, is just a piece that stays with me, especially in my spirit, because the song that the play also started with, underneath the poem I was doing, is Village Ghetto Land by Stevie Wonder.
Okay.
So for context, like my character had a noose wrapped around his neck. Hair was all crazy. Just a camo jacket with, like rolled up camo pants, like looking super out of it, like looking, homeless, unhoused. Um, but the thing that, like really, I'll say just always got me was anytime I would hear like Village Ghetto Man, as soon as that song would start, like I would immediately like just start. pulling at that rope. And this was like even when I wasn't on the stage, you know, like I would hear like that symphony start in that song, and it was just like, and it took me really long to kind of like break that out of my body. It took me a real long time to get that out of my body because of the intensity of that role in that character. Um, and I'll say like in essence, that play was really just about, you know, like mental health, suicide,
Mm.
uh, and you know, even I'll say like support or lack thereof, you know, like for people who are actually dealing with mental health situations or problems and don't necessarily either have access to resources or even people to help them navigate or process, you know, some of the things that they're working through or going through.
Wow, that's so good. That's so
Yeah.
good. So for my friends that are just checking us out online, we are getting some insight into the world of politically undefined Anderson Allen. Tell me a little bit about that term, politically undefined, because that's been
So
intriguing me for a minute.
it's poetically undefined.
Oh, poetically.
Um,
Thanks for the correction.
yep, all good. So the name for me came from it's a mathematical expression. So um you math teacher.
Yes, sir.
So as you know, for me it came from this idea, you know, like about certain equations that exist in math where um you have a point on a graph that you know there isn't anything that gives us any indication that it exists or it's real. And when you
Mhm.
have those instances, those are called undefined. And
Oh
for
my
me,
goodness. I love it. I love it.
just for me, for me, math is like one of the spaces I really exist in, and it just it's where I'm able to like use my rational, logical mind to express a lot of ideas. And poetry is more of, you know, like that free form, that expressiveness, and that's more of like the vehicle to like just explore like the gray areas of what I'll say like just resides in our inner essence, you know, like our inner beings. For me, it was getting to understand and build language around my inner world, but also like thinking about what it looks like for us to think about just life on a spectrum, you know, manhood on a spectrum, because it's not a monolith. It's so many different expressions of it. What does it mean to be like, what does it really mean to be human? And how does that look across all these different experiences? How does it look? Um, how does it look right now? You know, like in Rochester, what does it look like down south? You know, what does it look like in all these different areas? But also like how do people, you know, like really take up that space? I'm also because I'm an actor, like I'm always curious about like what makes people tick.
Mhm.
So I'm just, you know, like I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to put it all together and just tell that story, you know, like of what resides in the gray area, because I feel like that's where life is happening, whether we choose to go there or not. You know, like we don't always live in black and whites. We also live right there in the middle.
Amen. I love it. I love it. So you just connected me with a question I hadn't thought about asking you, but I'm gonna go there. So I found that highly creative people, there's an intersection between someone who's really creative and folks who have desired to live in this entrepreneurial world, because most people who are entrepreneurs, you know, we're solving some sort of problem and then people pay us. And so um typical of folks who are highly, you know, creative and entrepreneurs, there is a morning or evening routine that they practice with discipline. Um, for me, it's meditation. I'm highly into the understanding the quantum field. Tell me a little bit about your daily disciplines.
So usually I have to say this. For me right now, I part of my schedule or how I do things has been a little bit disrupted because I work an overnight job. I had to pick up an overnight job just so I could do everything that I'm doing during the day. And I do that from 11 to 7. And then I'm teaching yoga at Nazareth College. And I do that Wednesdays and Fridays. So right after I get off my overnight job, I come here and I teach those classes from 8 to 9. And then depending on what else I might have on my schedule, like for those days, I go out and I do those before I go back home and, like just get right with myself, either taking a nap and then hitting my pad if I have time to. But I'll say right now, I think the life cycle of how artists kind of create is subjective, and I don't think that we're always writing or doing anything. Right now, for me, I'm doing a lot more reading,
Mhm.
and I think sometimes what I've experienced is that I'll have an idea about something I want to do, but I don't necessarily feel like I have either the experience or the knowledge to go through and really execute it. So I think the biggest part of, like just being on the journey is also giving yourself room to live, like live and mature, but also like let the idea or the inspiration that you're carrying inside of you, like let it, like hold on to it, but let it have its time when it's ready, like or when you're ready for it. I definitely felt that with the one man show I started writing a few years ago. Um, because there was a lot of things, like in my head about how I wanted to do it, but I didn't really have the language or the knowledge on how I wanted to make it flow. I knew I wanted to like build the idea based on, like I'll say juxtaposing and not even juxtaposing, but making the artist, like come in the form of like a jukebox almost. And when you go to a juke joint or you go to a space that has a jukebox, put your quarter in, it plays the song that you wanted to play, and that's what it does, I think part of the thing, something I wanted to explore in that piece was, like this idea around what does just the relationship that consumers have to the artist and the relationship that the artist has to their art. Because a
Mhm.
lot of times I think that the consumer wants to control what the artist is creating essentially. And we don't really give like the artist a chance or space to come into, I'll say evolve, like it's almost like we want to play that same tune, that same beat. And I'm gonna just say that did not work well for Jagged Edge. I love Jagged Edge. However, anytime you hear them, it's like they done made the same song, the same sound for years, and like nothing. You don't see any growth. You don't see any
No
change.
evolution.
No evolution. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
Okay.
just like I can look at an artist like Andre 3000, for example. Who
Oh, isn't
has
that that's the brother that came out with the album where he played the flute, right?
yeah, new blue sun, new blue sun. Yep, yep,
Oh
yep,
my
yep.
goodness.
But to even see that, like that evolution kind of happened, and this is where he's at in his journey. It's interesting to see the kind of critique people have of him, like that we
Respect.
didn't want a flute album. We didn't want an album, like instrumentals. We wanted to hear you rap. And for me, it's just like, if this is where he is on his journey, as somebody who is a fan, I can't do anything but respect that. But
Respect.
beyond that, like,
Right.
and that's also as an artist. But the bigger thing for me is that you never said that you was gonna stop rapping. I think for him right now, even in that same way I'm saying, like it's just figuring out like what does rap mean to him now? What does that look like at his age? Um, because even though hip hop is a young form, I know a lot of people say, like it's a young boys, like kind of art form. And I don't agree with that. Like I feel like the pioneers of rap, the pioneers of hip hop are absolutely still got something to say, still got something fruitful to give us. And I don't know what that sounds like. I don't know what that is, but I think we just got to keep our ears open to it because it's going to live and do the same thing that jazz has done. It's going to live and do the same thing that classical music has done. It's going to live and do the same things that all these different genres of music that exist have done. But it can't be just, you know, like boxed into that idea that it has to be or sound this one way. But to get back to your question, because I know I just kind of went off on a little tangent. For me, I'll say the thing that usually, you know, like just triggers me or inspires me to write is when I feel something deeply or intensely. Um, and for me, those poems can come out of me like really quick. I think like the fastest I've ever written a poem is 45 minutes. Um, yeah, the fastest poem I've ever written is 45 minutes, and that was God is Love Scripture. I wrote that poem like that. Um, and then I have
Wait a minute.
other poems.
You said 45 minutes?
Yeah, 45 minutes.
Bro, I can't even get my brain to work in 45 minutes. You came up with a whole give me some of it. Indulge our audience. Give us a little bit.
I got you. Sun moon conceived, auric field, rhetoric shield, Achilles hill, expose the field, she is love in all its forms. Kin to fire, bending the flame she often falls victim to. Burnt surges, subservient dirges, curve the curse hurting the bag lady, don't drag your self-esteem like that. It ain't goddess-like. Even shadows only imitate the light they can't emit. It's a handicap for the spiritually disabled. Turntable hot to a deaf crowd. DJ unable to spin the scratch for the itch in this chrysalis gut. Bust a rhyme to let the butterflies rise. He released, let go, repeat. He released, dispersed, defeat. He released the peace within she. Peace, the peace of our scattered Pangea. Mosaic stone posting and strobe. Metamusic drums the low. Metamuse transfused in a pool of ether, drink her thoughts. She lifts the spirits, unwrap her presence, gift the lyricist, gifted lyricist, spit brick, blueprint, pyramid, syllabus, Aramis, scribed in Arabic, airbend in mid-sentence, ingrained fixtures, color thoughtful pictures, grayscale illuminates misunderstanding. She always demands attention. Diamond-studded pupils in the rough of her irises. Beauty in the eye of the one who holds her uncertainty, certainly, assertively, purposefully embracing her controversies. Agape, her currency. She just wants an unconditional love, unconditional trust. Expectation begets disgust. Disappointment is the child of a parent who never grew up. It's cuffing seasons for the bastard breeding. Single mothers believe themselves to be breeders of loneliness. Income tax provided to Mr. Winter, a seasonal deceiver. Her son can't melt the ice splinter, piercing the aortic pipeline between the man she wants and the one he's posing as. He does anything for a check. Fake love only breeds desperate children, daughters of calamity. Sons of absence only entertain the lost. Sons of absence only entertain the absent-minded, lost in the idea of love, not knowing love don't cost a thing. Ask yourself this question. How far are you willing to go to make the intangible tangible? Are we even speaking the same language? Do you even have the daring to respond? Love is an action verb, action being. The genuine article is far too potent to imitate. Word.
Wow. What? Bro. Listen, my audience said are checking this out, whether you're live or
A thousand snaps.
the
1,000 snaps.
replay.
Thank you,
This brother is stone cold amazing.
That was amazing.
So listen, I got my team online, and as in our tradition, I really like to kind of reserve two questions for the very, very end. But I want to open it up for the team just to share and to enter into your world of insight and expression. So anybody from the team, this is your opportunity to ask and to get some insight from this brother. Who would like to go first?
Hey, I'll do the question. Hey, brother, one of my favorite lyricists when it comes to MCing is Rock Kim. And I remember Rock Kim making, somebody asked a question.
OC, real quick.
Yeah.
Check your mic. Check your mic. We hear a little bit of an echo.
Okay, I'm in the store, so Can you hear me? Hold on, let me step out. Can you hear me a little better?
Yep, we hear you a little bit better. Yep.
Okay, one of my favorite lyricists is Rakim when it comes to emceeing. And one of the
Rakim.
things Rakim said, talking about writer's block, like somebody asked the question, how do you deal with writer's block? You know, and when Rakim, one of the things that he said, and I thought was profound, and I want to ask you the same question, how do you deal with it? Rakim said, when he gets to the point where he has no more to lay down on the pen, he just lay his pen down and begin to live some more. And through that life, he developed new words. So I want to ask you the same question. How do you deal with your writer's block?
I don't believe in writer's block. I think you have those moments, you know, like I'll just say to nourish yourself. For me, I do that by listening, observing, just going out in the world, taking walks, but also just reading, you know, like reading and watching things. I want to, especially if it's something that I need to get and learning new things, you know, like I think that's a big part of it. But the thing that I live by, and this is like part of my truth, some of the best poems I've ever, I'm gonna say the best poems that exist in my life are the ones that I've lived, the ones that I've never written, you know. And to me,
That's so good. So
I don't want to dictate, you know, like the when the work is supposed to come out or how it's supposed to sound. It's really just letting it come to you, you know, and come through you. So when it does arise and you have your mission to actually put that pen to the page, it's authentic, it's pure, and it doesn't have, you know, like that and your intent, I'll say, you know, like isn't muddying, you know, like what you're trying to do.
thank you, bro. That was beautiful. Beautiful.
Awesome. Awesome. Brother Miles, you got anything you want to share in your spirit, brother?
Man, the only thing I want to know is I need to get on your social media, my brother, and find out when you're performing, because I'm gonna come see you. I live in Rochester. So
All
I want to
right.
bring my wife, my kids, everybody, whole family. So next time you performing, you know, let us know or where we can follow you on social media. And I want to come and support you. And those words were inspiring. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, bro. Thank you. I appreciate you. And I definitely will keep you posted.
This brother's so cool, Miles. I took my wife out on a date night to one of the shows he did, and I was almost tearing up. He brought it out of me, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is not a part of me that I'm comfortable with. I had to question some of. I got uncomfortable, but so where did where is it always been? I guess the question that I wanted to try to articulate is, when did you know this was your calling? Was it something that you suppressed for a little bit, or was it something that you were visualizing and manifesting, you know, before the age of 10? Take me through that journey.
I think it was something that I had been visualizing, you know, like definitely since I was 5. I would so like I remember the one of like just two of my idols when I was growing up was Luther Vandross and Prince, but Prince especially because it was something about just how that brother like got on stage and did his thing. But I remember like we had Purple Rain on VHS. So every day when I came home, I got off that bus and after I did my homework, I would get that tape, hop it in the VCR, and I would watch the whole thing through. And then like for I want to say probably like the next 2 hours, I would literally just watch that last 15 minutes of that movie where he goes through Purple Rain. I would die for you and baby I'm a star. And I would just like I knew the whole movie. Like I was acting out everything everybody was doing. Anytime I watched something, like that was something I was just taking all of it in. I was memorizing everything that everybody was doing, their mannerisms, the words that were being spoken, like all of it. So it was just, I'll say like always in me, you know, like I was always impassioned whenever I saw somebody on screen, like doing something. And it wasn't just on screen, because it could just be everyday people, you know, like that I was just imitating. I was imitating everything that I saw. So for me, it was just always, it was always there. And I had to get the courage, you know, like within myself to actually go for it. It wasn't until 2016 that I met Gary DeWitt Marshall through Lou Highsmith, the executive director of Rock Bottom. She had invited him to an open mic that Poetic Rhythms, that Lou Highsmith and David Haygood were hosting out at his Gallery One Fine Arts on East Henrietta Road. And Gary had been there a night that I was performing. And after, you know, like he saw me do my piece and I came off stage, he talked to me for a moment. He just said, I really enjoyed what you just did. And I, I, I think the gift that you have would really translate a lot better, you know, like, and not a lot better, but I think it would translate well, you know, like in theater. I have a play that I'm doing and I want you to come be part of it. And this was 4 Men on a Couch. And to me, it was just, you know, like that was the affirmation and the confirmation that this is what I've always wanted to do this. This is the calling, this is the entryway. So I'm going, you know,
Mhm.
and that's what got me on my acting career, that play. But it definitely had always been there to want to do it. The desire had always been there. And I had always been playing out in some way in my life.
Love it. I love it. So let me ask you this, and I'm gonna be landing this plane shortly. If you could time travel and your current self could go back and talk to your younger self, what three pieces of advice would you give yourself?
Do it afraid, follow the beat of your own drum, and, and trust the process.
I want you to go in if you would. Share why. Share why those 3 points, because I'm sure someone listening to this recording may be inspired by some of the things you've shared so far in the broadcast.
I say to do it afraid because there ain't never gonna be a right time for you to actually go after the thing you want. It's never gonna be a right time to do the thing that you feel called to or you feel passionate about. So ain't no time like now, and the only time is now, because now is all we have. Um, I'll also say that because the biggest reason I work with young people now is because I don't want them to feel discouraged by what they have in them. And I definitely want them to feel empowered, you know, and I don't want them to waste the kind of time that I did getting to, you know, the start point that I did in my career doing this. It's real, it's possible, and what's inside of you can be made tangible. Everything you have inside of you can be made tangible. Um, Trust the process because you will find yourself in the work. The work is there to, you know, I think the transition for me is recognizing that doing the work is not about doing it as a practice of perfection, because perfection is a lie. Um, and what I mean when I say that is it's something that doesn't it's something that doesn't read true when we think about purity. I think when I think about what purity means now, I think about practice or process as refinement. Refinement, you know, it's just like when a swordsmith is making a katana and he's striking out all the impurities, you know, like in order to create the blade so it can be its sharpest, so it can be at its finest, you know, craftsmanship. And for me, it's that same thing, just in terms of making oneself, but also art making as a whole. I'm trying to remember the second thing I said to myself.
No, this is good, man. You got an amazing flow. Um, here's the last thing I want to ask you.
Mm.
What's what is bubbling in your spirit, maybe in the crock pot of your soul, some ideal, some aspirational goal that you're working on, that you're trying to manifest over the next 6 to 13 months?
Oh, 6 to 13 months. I definitely want to have at the very least, a rough draft of a one-man show that I've currently been working on called A Star in Flesh. And it's a juxtaposition between, like the exploration of humankind along, like just watching with the stars, like kind of observing our growth, our development, but us also, like just looking on to the stars and then thinking about their journey, their experience, but just kind of creating a dialogue between humanity and, like these celestial bodies that exist, out here in the universe. But also, like in that sense, like when I think about, like everything that exists out here in the universe. What would it say if it could speak for itself? You
Mm.
know, even in the ways that we had chosen to name the things for our own understanding. Like, what would these things say? What would it say if it could actually speak for itself? So it's really just about also like letting these things have their own language and just pass through me and talk through me. But I definitely want to, in 6 to 13 months, definitely have a rough draft of that like completed so I can start taking it through a process of getting it staged, and potentially touring it. I absolutely want to tour that piece, for sure.
Awesome, amazing, man. Listen, can we get a commitment from you to bring you back in that time frame, just to see how the work is coming?
I got you.
All right,
That's a nice piece of accountability right there.
all right. I love it. I love it. I love it, man. So listen, as in our tradition, would you be open to give us a prayer as we close out? Could you give us a prayer?
Sure. Creator, want to express my gratitude and thanks for the space that you have given us to be here this evening, to share space, community, words with one another, to fellowship with one another in the word. I want to thank all the folk who are in this space that might not be here virtually, but all the souls that are out there listening. And I just hope and pray that the word has touched, inspired, uplifted someone to just keep on keeping on and to seek guidance and clarity through their passion, and not just through their passion, through connectivity, through community, through the word. And just know that the moment that you might find yourself in, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, it ain't forever. Use it to catapult you into the next moment, stronger, more powerful, more clear on where you are and where you're going. And in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
So good. So good.
Mm.
So, Anderson, I'm gonna have all of your social media contacts in the comments of IG, YouTube, as well as Facebook. So if people want to reach out to you, they want to follow you, they want to just see what you're doing, they'll have access to that information. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Sounds so good. So good. All right, guys. That's another one in the books. Thanks for joining us and this episode of Level Up. Blessings, everybody.
Peace,
Lesson.
y'all. Appreciate you,
Peace.
brother Earl. Y'all be
Amen.
well, be safe, keep doing the
Likewise,
thing.
brother.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
Keep
sir.
up the good work, brother.
Thank